than never. What's up? I'm back in my garage after 2 months on the road. Joe's back too from his cosmetic surgery was a success.
Oh man, the tummy tuck, a smashing success.
Yes. Everybody's going to think Joe's on Ozempic. No, it was full-on surgery.
It was full-on cut-em-up surgery. Dude, What's up? It's good to be back. It's been like a month since we've been live together.
I know. It's lovely to be back.
Yeah,
this is the way I like to do it, in my garage with you. I didn't want to say this while they were on, but screw Mary Lou and Paula. I don't want that. I prefer Joe O'Brien. Talking to women is so hard. You got to be so careful.
Oh man, they were amazing. I was very sad I missed the Paula episode because I was like, God damn it, this is all right up my alley. It's like the board gaming 101, the explaining games to people.
That was a great episode.
So fun.
Although everybody made fun, they said I was too quiet that episode.
I told you beforehand, something got into you on the road after a while. And I was
Why can't I be different in different episodes?
Dude.
I'm not allowed to have different moods?
Yeah, you can have different moods, but the one mood you can't have when you're hosting a live radio show is quiet guy.
Yeah,
that doesn't work.
Again, NPR would prove you wrong. Why can't I be in Terry Gross mode?
Yeah. This audience expects loud, raucous, angry Jared, mean to listeners, strong opinions, strong voice, strong personality. Come on, man. You got to bring your
All right. I know. If it's not the same thing that you signed up for every time, you spit it out like my son spit out spaghetti because the noodle was a slightly different shape yesterday. This is a slightly different shaped noodle. It has to be the thing I want exactly. Well, we're going to give you exactly what you want today, everybody. Yes. We've had an incredible episode of Glass Cannon Radio, the show where you get to call in and have me let you know that your observation was not accurate. The show where you, the caller, get to be wrong in front of the public. Today, we are going to talk mainly about rules and mechanics in TTRPGs. We're gonna hit it off. We're start it off with 3 questions from me to Joe O'Brien. We're gonna get those questions, get some discussion going. Then we're gonna get into crunch. What does crunch mean in RPGs? What is it? How does it affect how an RPG plays? Then, right from there, we're going to slide into a discussion of rules. How do you learn them? How do you implement them at the table? What is the most important thing to remember about the rules of an RPG? Then we're going to talk about one of the things Joe and I really have loved to do in our lives, which is to do a gaming marathon where you spend several days, more than 8 hours a day, just playing role-playing games. What's that like? How do you pull that off? And we're going to have a listener award today as well. So that means that there is a listener question. So given that we are talking so much about rules today, and this is like a whoops all TTRPGs show.
Yeah. We haven't done this yet, I don't think. 31
I don't think so either. Yeah, I don't think so either. So
we did it a bit last week with John Harper. It was so nice of John to come on. Thank you again, John, for joining us. That was great, and that was obviously very, very TTRPG focused. But we haven't done one quite like this. I'm excited to get back in and talk games.
That's right. Now, in order to give a listener award at the end, we have got to ask the listeners a question. So, Joe, why don't you tell them what their question is for today?
Question for today. So first of all, let's talk about the prize. Prize for today, and this is a juicy one. I've been excited to get back to you guys after Gen Con, after I got my fresh copy of Pathfinder 2E's Battle Cry.
Yeah.
Yes! A new hardcover that I'm going to give away to the best answer for today's listener question. listener contest question. Battle Cry is going to be your new spectacular supplement for all things military, large-scale engagement role-playing, commanding troops, skirmishes, large-scale invasions. There's a couple new classes.
I could have used that during Blood of the Wild. I don't think it was out yet when I
this would have
ran
been the perfect
battle.
thing during the big battle in Blood of the Wild.
Perfect. Yeah, all right, great. Well, I want that, so hopefully I win it.
Yeah, hopefully you win it. I'm curious as your answer. We're talking a lot about crunch and a lot about rules today, mostly about RPGs, but this is in life in general, any pursuit, gaming or otherwise. What is an unwritten rule? Give us an unwritten rule that is interesting or makes us think, and you could win the prize today. Jared, give us an example. What is an unwritten rule?
An unwritten rule. Oh gosh. An unwritten rule is never tell someone about your dream that you had last night.
That's so true.
Right? Like, I don't know. I walked outside and my mom was a tree, and then I drove to my old job, not my current job. Like, no one wants to hear you rattle off about your dream. Put it in a dream journal.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of a gaming-focused one. I'll do a gaming-focused. You won't find this in Battle Cry. You won't find it in any Pathfinder book, and yet almost every player knows it. It's an unwritten rule. Never split the party. Never split the party. Now, obviously, sometimes you choose to break rules, and that's fun. Breaking rules is fun. But lo and behold, it is an unwritten rule that people seem to try to live by.
I ran the Fall of Plaguestone 2 years ago for my home group. They split the party. They have been role-playing for at least a decade, all of them. They decided to split the party, and they all died. And that is not a high challenge adventure. That's not like a really, really deadly adventure. But you can't do that.
You just can't do it. You got to explain to new folks. You're not going to see this in the book, but don't split the party. Hey, unless you want to live on the edge. Hey, and like I said, breaking the rules is fun, but it is a rule nonetheless. All right, let's get into it, Jared. What do we got today?
Let's get into it. Today we are going to start with 3 questions. I have prepared 3 questions for Joe O'Brien. So this first question comes out of my experiences. I was just at family camp with my family in Vermont. We go every year. Part of why we ran the John Harper interview that was recorded was that I was in the woods of Vermont, and I ran a game for kids at family camp. I ran Blades in the Dark. Okay. So I was running Blades in the Dark, and I realized when I told the parents I was going to run Blades in the Dark, I had to go, oh, by the way, there will be violence in this game. Like I had to tell them there's going to be violence in this game. And I realized that most of the TTRPGs we play involve violence in some way. And in fact, I don't know about you, Joe, but sometimes if you were to say to me, there's this new role-playing game, you're going to love it. It has absolutely no violence. I think personally, I might go, I don't know if I want to play that. I don't know if I want to play. So my question to you is, do you believe that you crave violence in games, and why do we crave violence in our role-playing games?
Wow, it's a great question, and it's a philosophical one. I mean, this is one of those, that's a good question. It could be a whole segment. And I think that, and I'd love people's opinions on this as well if they want to call in, but I would say, yes, agreed. My first reaction would be, I'm not interested in playing your game. If you're like, I have a game that has no violence in it, I'd be like, no, thank you. And I can't explain why, except to say that perhaps part of the fun that I experience through role-playing games is the fantasy of having the wherewithal or the power or the mental state to see through violence, which I never would in real life. To not be a pacifist, to explore the range of outcomes if you are willing to truly, with your physical body, put at risk and fight against evil and that kind of stuff. I think that that's thrilling for people to imagine that and to role play that. I mean, there's plenty of folks out there that want to play role-playing games because they want to experience something that they never would have otherwise. Now, that said, the only other realm that I could see this working in is things like a Delta Green, for example. Like it would have to be horror. So I'd be down with horror that never has any violence.
It's a different type of violence, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a violence to the mind. Yeah, it's a violence to the mind. And so, yes, there needs to be some sort. I guess it's just the stakes. The stakes have to be really high, and that usually includes violence.
You know, what's interesting is you say, like, you know, initially you were like, I get to experience something I never really get to experience. But how come we don't crave, like, a role-playing game where you make a difference in your community? You don't get to experience that either in real life. You know what I mean? Like,
I make a difference in my community.
You do?
You don't?
Well, I'm sorry. I should have been more specific. Where you, let's say a role-playing game where you
like a Habitat for Humanity, a role-playing game where you go overseas and build houses for
or
people.
Doctors Without Borders. You know,
like
Why don't we crave that? We don't get to do that in real life.
I mean, that could be interesting, but like a Doctors Without Borders. But that is like I'd be down for that. That doesn't have to have violence, but that has to have mental strain, anguish, fear, doubt, right? What's another? I just thought of another example. Oh, I've thought of this before. I thought it would be really neat to play like an astronaut RPG where it's not violence based, but it's like there's a lot of roles involved. There's a lot of like skill rolls, stuff like that for disasters in space. And it's just trying to survive, trying to stay alive. But again, you're always putting it to like death has to be a possible outcome here.
Right. We're talking about stakes, really. And one of the simplest way to get to high stakes is violence. That's one of the straight through lines to high stakes, right?
And I would say philosophically, I would say if I have to guess, there's just the innate human proclivity for violence. I mean, it's there. Yeah. We're animals at the end of the day, and it's obviously like we can reason ourselves out of it. And there are times and there are plenty of people that don't think that way or have that instinct at all, but some people definitely do, obviously. And so I think it's a prevailing sort of innate vibe.
But it's weird because my wife doesn't like violent movies. She doesn't like violence in games. She's played games with me before. She would prefer the game not have violence, really. And so it seems to be sort of maybe about men a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we need to ask, you know, some of our female gamers that are out there listening. I would love for you to call in and tell us your thoughts on the violence in games. But I realize
Jen with two N's, who is an adult woman per her name in Discord, says, I think there is a difference between violence and conflict. You don't necessarily need violence in most games, but you need conflict. And, you know, I can see that definition. But yeah, I don't know, like, if it is just like a male thing. I don't know. I've played RPGs with plenty of women that are bloodthirsty at the table.
Yeah,
and love
you're
kicking
right.
Ass.
We played that Delta Green game where I forget her name, but she's so fantastic. But she just
Paula
executed.
Deming?
No, it wasn't Paula Deming. It was at Vegas where our one player, who happened to be a lady, executed all of the witnesses.
Yeah. Ice cold. Ice cold. I think that was Lauren.
So I was being regrettably sexist, and it won't be the last time today. All right.
All right, next question.
Let's move on to our next question.
And by the way, when we take calls, you can feel free to weigh in on any of this.
Yeah. So you told me recently that you ran a game for some family members, right? Mm-hmm. It was Blades in the Dark, wasn't it?
Yeah, Blades, yeah.
You ran Blades in the Dark for some family members who weren't really experienced role players. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, yeah.
Okay, so what was your takeaway from that experience, either running for family or running for new role players?
Awesome. It was really cool. I think that like I've been so immersed for 10 years in high performance role playing. Yeah, because that's the show that we do. That's the friends that I play with. That's kind of how the game is developed, and it keeps increasing in volume and stakes. Right, like the characters you play, the voices you do, etc. It can be very refreshing to like sit down at a table with non-performers. I don't want to say not necessarily experienced role players, but non-performers, and get back to a way of playing the game that I used to play it, a long time ago, where performance can come in small spurts and it's fun, but mainly everybody's kind of focused on the narrative, the writing, the story that you're trying to tell, that you're literally telling as opposed to acting out, right? And and I loved that aspect. And it was really cool to see people embody another character, but they don't have to do a voice and they don't have to act it all out. They just embody it in their choices. They embody it mentally. And it's really fun with Blades in the Dark because I was playing with some family who are all very, very good moralistic people that have, as far as I know, never been deep-seated in the society of crime, never been part of a crime syndicate, and who I've never really even seen an edge to, and see them be like, well, we got to kill this guy because we can't have him encroaching on our drug territory. Like, it's just awesome. It's really fun to see that side of people. So yeah, and it's also, God, it's just so nice to see people that don't get to play as much just get out there and try it out. You'd be surprised how often people take to it quickly. And it's not necessarily in the performance mindset, but just in thinking like another person, not necessarily performing like one. Which is great.
It's interesting you say, people who are really good or moral, they really enjoy the opportunity to be a criminal and do evil or at least amoral things.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the violence appeal too, is that we're not really nice people, but there's something about getting that out of your system, it
is interesting though. So Clancy writes in on Discord, and we all know Clancy is lovely. And Clancy says, I'm a complete monster in GTA 5. And that's so great. It's very interesting too, because I am not. Like, I play those games and I'll be like, oh man, this time, whatever, I'll play a sci-fi game, right? Video game. I'll be like, this time I'm going to be a nasty ass space pirate. I'm going to kill everybody I come across, steal their shit, sell it on the black market. And I never end up doing it. I just end up taking quests to help people. I don't know what it is. I have a hard time getting in that proper mindset. Blades really helps because everybody is in a crime syndicate, right? Right. That's the idea. There's no innocence.
You can play it as criminals with honor, kind of.
Yeah.
Or you can play it as, right? Yeah, you can play it as full on bad guys. You can play it that way too.
Yeah. A lot of different ways you can go, but yeah, I do enjoy my violence in RPGs, and I did really like playing with a new group. That was really fun.
That's cool. I also like playing with inexperienced people. I think I told you not too long ago, I played a game with a bunch of people who weren't, hardcore role players. They weren't actors. And everybody was kind of acting out the scene. And then they came to this one player and she said, I'm not going to do the whole improv thing right now.
That sounds like me. That sounds like me in a Blood of the Wild intro.
Okay, you're not going to do the improv thing right now. Right on.
Some of us just we lock up. It's deer in headlights. It's hard.
Yeah, but there's multiple ways to do improv aside from doing a voice and acting out the person. Making decisions in character is also improv. Anyway, final question, and I gave you an easy one for the second question because the last one is kind of tough. What is something in TTRPGs or geek culture that you think everyone is wrong about?
Oh man, I need some prep on this one. These are supposed to be yes or no questions, Jared. No,
they're not supposed to be yes or no. They're supposed to be right or wrong. How many cubits? No.
What's something in tabletop RPGs that everybody is wrong about? I will boldly go out there and say that leshies are cool. You're wrong. The whole plant is a person thing I hate, and I think it's so stupid. I don't get it. I don't even like plant enemies that much. Occasionally, if there's a neutral vine that just sort of like a Venus flytrap kind of thing, right? It grabs you, it tries to engulf you, whatever. It's like a natural predatory. Okay, but sentient plant creatures to fight. I don't know. I've never been. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah. So wrong. Lushies are cool. Everyone's wrong about that.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody, because I agree with you, Joe O'Brien. I don't like these postmodern, could be a cutesy creature kind of.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, obviously, I have such great fond memories.
We've talked about this before.
I have great fond memories of Super Mario Brothers, right? Like, wonderful memories of Super Mario Bros. If I'm playing Mario Kart with my kids or nieces and nephews or whatever, like, I'll be Toad in a second. I love it. Like, this is great. Yeah. Get me into an RPG and somebody wants to play a talking mushroom, and I'm just like, this is idiotic, and I hate it, and it's stupid, and I want no part of it. I can't explain the difference.
You're modeling a different kind of fiction in your play of a TTRPG than other people are. I think that, there's a younger generation who's into different kinds of media, who are maybe more used to mushroom people and the ubiquity of the talking mushrooms in their media. I know talking mushrooms are huge with Gen Z. They're all walking around with mushrooms on their shirt. They're not taking mushrooms because they don't take drugs, but anyway.
And then Arita says really quick on the way out the door, and this is good on Discord, Joe wants to go back in time and tell Tolkien that Ents are stupid. I love Ents.
Ooh, that's a very good point.
Because I remember being like, holy shit, like a talking tree that's like, fuck you. What about my side? And I'm like, that is awesome. So like, if it's done in like a very dark and serious way with big stakes, I'll get behind it. But that doesn't feel. That to me, that's not the vibe when you open up the player core of the Leshy ancestry. The vibe isn't like a beaten and battered environmentally, like disaster survivor that is like fighting back against the society that is trying to destroy them.
Yeah.
That I can get behind. This is a little bit like, I just want to be silly. And that's not my
The Ents are the most whimsical part of the Lord of the Rings. Maybe the most magic-y part, you know. The Ents have someone who's read it more than once, the Lord of the Rings. The Ents are, for me, a part where I find, like when they're first meeting Treebeard and everything, it's a little bit of a slog for me. I gotta be honest. I do love the Ents, but and also I believe in the one gimme rule. So if I was putting together a Pathfinder game, and one of my players wanted to be a Leshy, I'd 100% say yes. But if two wanted to be Leshies, or I had someone go, I want to be a Catfolk, I want to be a Leshy, I want to be a little purple dragon that strums a lute, I'd be like, and we're done. We're not going out with that party.
And we're done.
But one Leshy, or as you put it, a Leshy that takes it 100% seriously, a dark Leshy, or a Leshy that really tries to make it, about like as real as possible. That could be very interesting.
Yeah, it could be compelling. I might have to look into this.
Let's enough about the fluff. Okay, that we're talking about RPG fluff. Now it's time to talk about crunch. People talk about crunch in RPGs. What RPGs are crunchy? What RPGs are more narrative versus crunchy? So today we're going to talk about what is crunch? What is it? What does that term mean? And what does it mean for a role-playing game that it has a lot or a little bit of crunch? So I'll start with you, Joe. Joe, how do you define crunch in an RPG?
I saw this once. This is an extreme oversimplification, but I have found it is a pretty good gauge of games that I personally would define as crunchy. And I think this is part of this, what we're talking about this segment. And I want to have people, by the way, we got some callers I want to get in here too. So we'll get to you as soon as possible. But there's the idea that it is a bit of a nebulous term. What does it actually mean when people say crunchy? Where are the tiers? Do people define tiers? Or is a game crunchy or it's not, right? There's very interesting, a lot of ways to approach this conversation. And I'll say I heard one thing one time, and I can't remember where I heard it. It's on the tip of my tongue. It might have been a podcast, or it might have been a blog or something like that. And I was just like, and I've never forgotten it. And I always apply this little metric, I guess you could call it, which is, I define systems with crunch versus systems that are not crunchy or are not as crunchy as any game that adjudicates movement, like movement speed.
That's a good yardstick, is what you're saying.
If that is in your game, you have a crunchy game. If it's not in your game, you probably don't have a crunchy game. Now, obviously, there's a million exceptions to this rule, but I think in a lot of cases, that pretty much fits the mark. If you're telling me, like how many feet I can move or meters I can move in a round, that is a problem. Not a problem. That is crunchy.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I don't know if I agree, because I think that there are a lot of games that tell you how movement works that aren't necessarily rules heavy. And when I think of something crunchy, I think of something that is rules heavy. And by rules heavy, I mean that it tries to adjudicate or have rules for a lot of different types of circumstances. And it is more interested in simulating reality, even though no role-playing game does a really good job of that. But it is more interested in simulating reality than maybe telling a story. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, a story can absolutely develop from a number of crunchy roles simulating reality. I'm not saying that crunchy games don't do a good job at telling a story. I'm just saying that the game rules are more interested in simulating how grappling works than they are in simulating rising action and climax and things like that.
Gotcha.
So I mean, that would be my
I have found another definition that I've put out there, and tell me what you think about this. I have found that anything that calculates points of damage is a crunchy game.
You think anything that calculates damage points is crunchy?
I think so. Yeah. It's pretty crunchy. I think if you are not calculating, if you don't have a pool of hit points that are being reduced by point values per hit, you are playing a non-crunchy game. Possibly.
You probably are right. You probably are right. I just don't know that is always correct. Well, let's say this. We're talking about
neither
crunchy.
of them are always correct, but maybe a guideline.
We're talking about crunchy, but let's just say what crunch is. So crunch isn't good or bad, right? It's just the rules and the numbers.
How much
right?
is adjudicated? Yeah.
Yeah, how much is adjudicated by numbers and specific rules? Okay, so crunch is something a game can have a lot or a little of or a medium amount of, right?
Spectrum, yeah.
And something that's crunchy has a lot of it. And you're saying that if something has hit points, if it has movement rules, then it is, by your definition, crunchy.
Yeah.
But you brought this up when we were initially talking about this topic. I didn't, but Blades in the Dark does not have movement rules, and it does not have hit points. So, but it has a lot of rules for a lot of different specific circumstances. I think a lot of people would say Blades in the Dark is a narrative game, because it seems to be a little bit more interested in simulating fiction, right? The way that stories work. But it does have a lot of rules and a lot of...
Well, I think that's something for the callers. It's like, would you define a narrative game like Blades as crunchy?
Yeah.
My gut is no, but I think there's a lot of crunch in there. So
yeah.
It is debatable, but I'm curious where most people stand on this. I think our benchmark is in that Pathfinder realm, right? Like
Pathfinder, I think everybody would agree is crunchy.
Is D&D 5e a crunchy game?
See, I think people would say no, or they would say it's medium crunch.
I think Pathfinder players would, and I think that anybody that's like new to gaming would say it's crunchy.
I really believe that because D&D tries to capture the biggest audience it possibly can and is the biggest name so much that we have to use D&D as kind of a blanket term to describe what we do when we play these games, that it is at the most medium it can possibly be on a lot of different axes. Like it's just like very kind of like baseline on a lot of things, and I would say its crunch level is very medium baseline. Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting. So I guess my next question is, before we get to the callers, and we're going to get to them real quick, what are your feelings on crunch? Do you prefer a game with a lot of crunch or a little bit of crunch, and why? And can I weigh in first really quickly with this?
Sure, yeah.
So I like crunchy and non-crunchy games. But sometimes when I'm getting into a crunchy game, it's because I want a challenge as a game master. Because really, I got to be honest, and I said this on an earlier episode, maybe 2 or 3 episodes again. Crunch can break immersion in the fiction of the game. Crunch can turn something that should be exciting and should have pace. It can stop it dead. It can say, okay, now we're doing a bookkeeping exercise, right? And when I play these games, I truly am, as a GM, trying to create a movie that you are inside of, that you get to live through. And crunch can get in the way of that a lot, or make it harder to pull that off, right? To pull off an exciting combat, a lot of combat rules can make the combat less exciting, right? Or that's not fair. It can make the combat feel less like a movie or a novel. It can make it feel less like it has the pacing and the sort of arc of a story. So I mean, how do you feel about it, Joe? What do you think?
I disagree with that. I think that look, how you feel is how you feel. You're not wrong about how you feel. But I would say I love crunch. I think crunch is great. I love having both options. There are times when I don't want as much crunch. There are times when I love crunch. I'll tell you when I hate crunch. I hate crunch, and this is a very specific perspective, but when you're doing a show and you're recording or you're live or you're on stage, and you're adjudicating between a bunch of people a bit of minutia that is so stupid and does not really matter in the grand scheme of things, I hate crunch. In those moments, I despise it, and I think it takes away from the entertainment property. But crunch, rules that heavily attempt to simulate what it is like to, say, fight in a battle with swords and shields and magic. Those exact rules and how specific they are, if you're with a bunch of people that know them well, those rules create beautiful moments of struggle and challenge and strife that you're attempting to overcome. I think it gets dangerous when you get into an area of like, oh, well, rules are preventing me from doing what I want to do. And it's like, well, don't define it that way, because that is the story, that is the conflict. It's like things need to be hard. Great feats of heroic strength need to be hard to accomplish, or they're not great feats, right? And so I do think that they can support great narrative in a way, but you need to have buy-in around the table, and you need to not mind those little breaks and think that they get in the way of the moment, because because I've been at tables where people sit around and they're not, deep in character, and they're adjudicating, something that you realize you can't do. Oh, I'm grappling you, and now I want to constrict you, and it's going to kill the character, and it's just one die roll away. It's like, oh, well, it's at the, last round, did you maintain that grapple at the appropriate whatever? And then, you gotta roll it, and you realize, no, I lost the grapple. I don't get to have that great moment. That might feel like a lost moment. Well, the reason that is so great is because when you actually do it, it's because you fought through all of these layers, and all these die rolls had to lead to this moment of incredible tragedy. I don't know. That's why I enjoy it.
I would just answer your first point, which is I think that, you made a really good point there. I think that I am biased because a lot of times when I am running a game, I am running it for an audience, right? I'm running it for entertainment purposes. And when you suddenly get
when that happens,
bogged down, and again, I don't mind pausing for a second to figure out how a major mechanic, or like whether someone's about to die or not, or whether a particular attack went off correctly, but you do get bogged down in minutia sometimes. So how many spaces could you move there? Well, wait, is that a large enough burst? Or I mean, those aren't even great examples, but you get bogged down in minutia. That does sometimes annoy me, but that's because I'm doing it for an audience. At home, it hardly matters, right? But maybe it does matter at home though, Joe, because even when you're playing at home, you want it to kind of have a pace and be exciting and not have someone waiting for 10 minutes for their turn while you like explain to someone, how a crossbow works. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Sure. Well, you're dealing with a spectrum here, and you're dealing with a lot of different tables and a lot of different people. That narrative can all flow very, very well if, 80% of the people at the table are very familiar with the rules. If only you as the GM are familiar with the rules, it would grind things to a halt, and you have to take the temperature of each table, each moment, of course. But let's see what other people have to say about this. We've been jabbing for a while.
Yeah.
Let's get Arakar up here. Arakar, why don't you join us for a moment and weigh in? How you doing, buddy?
Hi. How are you, Joe and Jared?
It's so good to see you. How you doing?
Oh my gosh, this is my friend Eric. How are you?
Oh yes. Guys, I want to give you a hug because I hate leshies. I don't allow them in my games. If there's a leshie, it's going to be an NPC, an enemy or whatever that you are going to kill with extreme prejudice and have fun doing it. Which links, with when you talked about the violence in games and basically humans are just hairless baboons, so it's in us. We have to have a pressure valve for the violence, and I think that leshies are a good pressure valve. So
yeah, that's good.
Yes,
that's good.
About the crunchiness, I think it's a spectrum. You cannot trace a line in the sand and say on one side it's crunchy, on the other side it's not crunchy. It's a real spectrum. It's hard to put lines or categories. Is it medium? Is it heavy? Things like that. It's a spectrum, and I think it's a good thing that you move in that spectrum depending on your move. If you feel like something that's very crunchy, go ahead, play crunchy. But if you do play crunchy too much, too often, you could get in some kind of fatigue. And it's like, ribs and wings covered with fries, it's good. But at one point, you're going to want to have some sushi or maybe a light salad.
So, yes. Yeah. No, and I found that out at Gen Con too, Eric.
Exactly. I agree, Eric. I think that, of course, it's a spectrum. The challenge here today is there a way to kind of define what people mean when they say, oh, well, that's crunchy, because that's what they say. People don't say in regular conversation like, oh, it's a little crunchy. That's a little, I feel like that's more rare to hear. People are like, it's either a crunchy game or it's not. That's just the lexicon. Is there a game you can think of right now that you would consider to be not crunchy? Like, can you give an example?
Yes. Dune Adventures in the Imperium is not crunchy.
I agree.
You could very easily do a session 0 with somebody that has never played, and then next session go get right into the action, and they can follow. It's quite
this is
easy.
2D20, right?
Yes.
And I found that crunchy, but maybe that was just because I didn't know the system and I just needed to like wrap my head around it. But I know that when you rolled it, just narrative things occurred, right? Like
exactly.
And that's
Yes.
I know. I would agree. And you've brought up a really good point, Eric. Is that the learning curve for a crunchy game can be difficult and even intimidating to new players, right? But I agree with you with Dune Adventures in the Imperium. I feel like I could get a new player in pretty quickly.
Yeah, very interesting. Arakar, give us an unwritten rule. What's an unwritten rule in life or gaming or anywhere?
It's something that doesn't happen very often, but we've all went through that. I call it the frustrated GM magically locked door. That's a syndrome. When the party is always killing all your monsters, and at one point, I'm going to get them. So they get into a room, and the door slams shut, and it's mysteriously locked. You cannot open it, and you're stuck in that room with that big monster. And usually it ends up as a TPK. just because the GM wanted to. No, you're not going to flee and use the corridor as cover. Putting your tank in front and your casters in the back, and your clerics constantly healing your tank. For example, your fighter.
What is the unwritten rule? Is it
magically locked door?
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't use the magically locking door.
Exactly. I've seen it. I've been playing the game for 40 years, and I've seen it happen many times.
Okay.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Eric.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
I just want to say, when I did D&D 4th edition, I did like 13 levels of that with some players. I had a player who played the elf archer who, that 4E was very map based. Like everything was about area and you had to have minis to play it. And I had this elf archer who, no matter what, would always keep backing up into the last room, and I was constantly having to erase mats and redraw mats for this one motherfucker. And man, I could have used a magically locked door on that guy.
Yes. Yeah. Just box him in. For those that got here late, we're asking the question, what is an unwritten rule? Best answer by the end of the show is going to get Battle Cry, the new Pathfinder 2e source book for all your large engagement rules for military kind of stuff. And there's also a couple new classes in there as well. Let's take another call. Let's get Pax Americana. Pax Americana. Have you ever called in before? I don't recognize that name. Pax, are you there? I'll give you another second here before I go on to a regular. Oh wait.
Got it.
Yeah, you did.
I was like wandering around the next room doing the dishes, and I'm like, why isn't the mute button working? Guys, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thanks
really
for
excited.
No one's ever said that before. Thanks for using that joke.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, all right. I'm going to go hide now. Okay, it was fun while it lasted.
Hey, it wouldn't be a call if you didn't get immediately roasted by Jared the second you heard your voice.
Well, I wanted to throw out there that I am a big fan of Crunch, if only because I don't think it's a real game unless the world imposes upon you. And I think that's the real definition of Crunch. And I think in the chat we were talking about, I'm like, man, is Crunch a vibe? I don't think Crunch goes as light as being a vibe, right? But if the world kills your character, whether you like it or not, or if the world shapes you, vice you shape in the world. And I apologize, Jared, but Blades in the Dark, I feel like the rules are very much you shaping what the world looks like and is doing around you. And I think that's where the game stops being crunchy and it becomes storytelling, which is a great thing. But when the world starts taking sniper shots at you or crushing you or killing you and doing all these different things to you that the GM is imposing, or just the physics and rules of the world, I think that's where the crunch happens. The crunch oftentimes being the sound you make when you're ground into dust.
That's a great definition. World. That's a good point and a great definition.
Yeah, that's one of the things we were really looking for here was a way to define it. And that's interesting where the world imposes itself on you. Your character is fighting the whole world in a crunchy game in a way.
Right. You're not creating the world. It exists outside of you. And as a player, it exists outside of you and your character.
Exactly.
Yeah. Of course, we're still talking about the illusion of that because the truth is that your GM is really they've got a lot of control of that world, right? And the players also in, say, a Pathfinder AP really have a lot of control of the world and maybe don't realize it, right? But I get it, and I agree with your definition. It's this idea that the world is not being kind of created and controlled and steered by you, that there's this bulk of rules there that exist unto themselves that you can go and encounter. Again, that's like the simulationist sort of philosophy. We're simulating a reality.
Yeah.
And I can see Jared and the GM's enjoy this in a different way, right? Because if you're a GM for a non-crunchy game, you get to watch your characters build the world, and you're kind of not sitting and waiting, but you're ready to receive, and you have to dance around these weird changes to the world that they shape. Whereas other games, Delta Green or Pathfinder, you may more gleefully impose the world, and the characters, though, the players, there's so much satisfaction in discovering a world that exists. You're like, I'm going to wander through this place, and it's not being procedurally generated based on my actions or on my opinions. And oftentimes it is, right? But it feels different.
But it feels like it exists outside of you.
Yeah, good call, Pax. I like that. Give us an unwritten rule. What's a good unwritten rule?
God, don't be a dick.
Okay. Thanks, Pax. Clever, but unfortunately, I'm not sure that's going to win for me, because that is a written rule in literally Pax, like what's in his name. Pax, Penny Arcade Expo. The first rule is don't be a dick. Or is it drugs are bad? That might be the first rule. And then the second rule is don't be a dick.
And I just to say, I break the don't be a dick rule all the time.
Yeah, you do. On this show. Constantly.
Yeah.
Kill Torres Kill. Speaking of violence, we got Kill Torres Kill. It wants to call in and weigh in. Not sure on what. Kill, are you there? We got you. Yeah, how's it going?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
sure
we got
can.
you.
Oh, yep. I agreed with that one guy earlier. Leshies fucking suck.
Wow,
yeah,
I guess it was kind of a bad answer in a way.
Welcome to our Leshy hate episode.
Hell yeah, brother.
Pouring on the Leshy.
Burn the forest to the ground.
I just, for me, whenever like I'm running a game or something, it's just like, I want the vibe to be a little serious, like you were saying, Joe. And I feel like Leshies just always take that out. Like, oh, I'm a fun little goblin fucking gourd creature. And the rest of the party is just elves and dwarves and whatnot.
Yeah.
No, we all agree. Leshies are absurd. Elves, pointy-eared, immortal, forest-dwelling people, that's totally serious and cool.
Exactly.
Plant people is silly and stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know how people don't get this.
So what do you think about Crunch, my friend? Tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I've only really ever played 5th edition and Pathfinder 2e.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm a fan of Crunch, and I'd rather play, because I GM more often than not, I'd rather play a crunchy game where I can ignore the rules that I don't like, and if there is something, I can, like, in crunchy games, I feel like there's more rules for more niche stuff.
That's a great point, Kiltor. That's something we haven't said yet, which is one of the nice things about Crunch is if you want a rule, you can go get it. It's there. Because sometimes you don't want it, and that's fine. You can always just ignore it. You always have that prerogative. But if you want a rule or a way to explain something that you can't really, you're like, I'm telling a character as a GM, I'm telling a character, I don't feel like you can do that. It doesn't feel right, but there's no rule for it. It starts to just be you against them personally, right? And you're trying to both resolve your sort of rules of the world, whether it's physics or emotionally, how people would react to something you've done. It's neat when you can, I believe me, I could go on and on about arguments against like diplomacy rules and swaying of an NPC rules. Remember we talked about this on Glass Cannon Radio, Jared?
Yeah.
When we discussed
there are
tokens,
all kinds of new rules,
relationship rules, right? Like who needs to crunch down that stuff? Well, maybe if you wanted it, it's there. That's what's nice about crunchy systems. Just to echo,
it does feel like it does feel like though we always say that the GM can just pick which rules they want to do, but in practice, I don't know that always works out. You'll have players go, but wait, I read this, I invested in it, I built my character based with the assumption that this rule would be in play. what I find more often is that sometimes the players and the GM will get to a point where they don't quite know the rule, and it looks like it's going to really slow down or stop the action to dive deep and figure out the rule. So the GM makes a ruling, and everybody's okay with that. And then they can go back and find the rule later and see if they're doing it correctly. That I think works, but I don't really find that people really can go, I'm just not using that rule. Maybe when you're talking about like the relationship rules and it, like a book outside the core book, yeah, absolutely. You could say I'm not using that subsystem.
Oh, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of diplomacy. Okay. Kill Torres, you stay on the call here. Let me know what you think. So you're running a game in 2E, and there's a tavern scene, and somebody says something that says the wrong thing to somebody, and within the PCs or the characters or whatever, and a fight starts to break out. Now, the PCs know that if they don't de-escalate this quickly, they're going to get in trouble with the town. They can't get into a fight here. But the NPCs seem ready to fight. And the player says, I want to make an impression. I want to make an impression and try to roll diplomacy to de-escalate this fight. You go to the rule book, the action's all written out. Make an impression, blah, blah, blah. You need 1 minute, and all you have is an action, is a turn. A GM can look at that book and be like, you don't have a minute. You can't do this. The fight happens no matter what. Or I think it's the GM's prerogative in a given situation to throw that 1 minute rule out and say, you can make a roll right now to make an impression within 1 second and try to get it to de-escalate. That's an example of what I'm talking about. There's a rule for it,
the difficulty class. Yeah, the GM could raise the difficulty to make that a little harder if they wanted or something like that.
That's reasonable.
That's a great point, Jared. That's sort of what I was going to say is like, if you just, it's supposed to take a minute. You have 15 seconds. I'll ask my players like, okay, give me what you're going to say or the gist of what you're going to say. And it's going to be a harder DC, but it's still possible.
Yeah. All right, Torres, I got 2 questions for you before we let you go. 1. What is a crunchier game, Pathfinder 2E or D&D 5E?
I'd say Pathfinder, just because it has so many more like rules that are actually written down. Because when I played 5th edition, it was back when I was in college and was getting drunk every night, and most of the rules are just like, I don't know, figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, and then second question. What is a great unwritten rule? Win yourself a copy of Battle Cry from Paizo.
So on the few times that I've been on this show, I've talked about going to concerts, and a lot of the concerts I go to have mosh pits in them.
Yes.
And so my favorite unwritten rule of concerts is if somebody falls down in a mosh pit, you block the mosh pit from hitting them. You make sure that they get up and that they're okay.
Interesting.
And it's even at like some like hardcore shows, like bands like Meshuggah or Gojira or places like that, where it's like intense music. You always want to make sure that everybody's okay.
Awesome. Nice. I love that one. I don't really know how to word it.
That's a nice rule.
It's a good answer, but it's like protect
mosh pit protection
in a mosh pit.
Protect the fallen in a mosh pit. While you're writing that down, I just want to say a couple more things about crunch, okay? So one, I think that like good crunch rewards good character builds, right?
Then that's fun.
Good crunch makes sure that your character build matters and the decisions you made in that matters. And that's great. That's really good, okay? But I will also say that the reason we get into like our character build needs to matter so much is because I think sometimes in tabletop gaming, we've forgotten to make the player decisions matter. Like, so the players think the only decisions they got to make that really mattered are like combat moves or like what feats they decided on. And there's not enough of like really getting to decide in, say, a fantasy D20 game which direction the story goes, or how to handle larger story issues that are at stake. People don't feel as much agency. The only way that they feel agency as players is in their character build.
I think that this is it. Look, I got back into the game with Pathfinder. I didn't play for 20 years. I came back in with 1E, which is essentially a relative of 3.5. And that is very feat heavy. And I loved it. And I love feat trees and stuff like that, especially in video games. But with more time and a lot more experience, I can say, I think pretty confidently, as much as I love crunch and stuff for all different reasons, I don't think I like that anymore. I don't think I like feats being basically specialization. I'm just not a huge fan of being like, man, the only way at 10th level that I can grapple badass characters is I needed to spend every feat from 1st through 10th level on grappling.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I like being able to do fun, cool, interesting combat maneuver type stuff in combat without all those feats. Is that more realistic simulation-wise, that you'd need to be a trained grappling monk in order to grapple that well? Yes, but I agree with that. But I also feel like sometimes these systems make it so that it is mechanically impossible to do anything else. And I'm not that interested in that kind of stuff
it makes it like where you have to
make it harder. Sure, this is like you need to roll a 20 or there's no point. When it's a 5% chance versus a 70% chance, you're never going to try. But that's one of the things I really enjoy about Call of Cthulhu. It's like even when it's a 40, your characteristic or your skill is a 35 or a 40. You feel like you can roll it, you can try it, and then that failure moves the story forward in interesting ways. And you might succeed. Decent chance. Is Call of Cthulhu a crunchy game, Jared?
I would say that it is not.
Okay. There's a lot of rules in Call of Cthulhu.
But by and forgive me, I can't remember the caller's name, but who had the excellent definition. By his definition, Call of Cthulhu does feel like a world you encounter. It's not like a world you're controlling, right?
Yeah.
So maybe by that definition, it is crunchy.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's we'll move on to rules in a minute here, but I want to talk to Slow Eye Joe here. Has been waiting to jump in. Sweet Threat in Discord says Call of Cthulhu is crunchy. We all know it's a spectrum here, but like having some extreme opinions on it can be fun. Slow Eye, you there?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Excellent. So on crunchiness, my favorite way to kind of frame this was kind of pitched, and I'm stealing it from Trevor Duvall, who runs the Me, Myself, and Die YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
The way he puts this is that on one end of the spectrum is speed of resolution, and on the other end is detail of resolution. So essentially, abstracted the rules are, the faster and more seamless the play tends to be. But that's a heavier lift on the players and the GMs to improvise and kind of come up with something cohesive. Whereas on the other end, you have a lot more minutia and detail and rules. And so there's a lot more fidelity in the world that you're generating together, but you have to know and internalize a lot more rules.
That's
right.
cool.
I tend to.
That's great.
Yeah.
Speed of resolution versus detail of resolution. That's cool.
Interesting. Yep. Yeah. That's a great definition too. Wow.
One of the reasons I'm actually really looking forward to the next campaign being Shadow Dark is it's an OSR game, which leans a little bit further away from the crunchier aspects of games like Pathfinder. And I think it might be more conducive to a live show. And of course, you guys are great at improvising and, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be a perfect fit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
I also think OSR games give players a lot more agency in terms of deciding where the story kind of goes or how the story develops. Pathfinder, I love Pathfinder APs, but even Eric Mona, when he was on here, admitted that they are a little bit of a roller coaster ride you get on, and it's a little on the rails. You know what I mean? Whereas I think OSR games come more from a philosophy of open world. Kind of anything can happen. So,
sure. To Joe's point, for a crunchier game, it can kind of feel like if you want to do cool stuff, it's behind a paywall of some type of a rule or something like that.
Yeah, something you had to invest in at character creation.
Right.
And if you didn't, now you can't even attempt it. Those aren't very fun. Those moments, at least. All right, Slow Eye, give us a great unwritten rule.
I'm going to pass because Pathfinder is a little too crunchy for me. So.
All right, great. Thanks, Slow Eye. Appreciate it. That's great. Yeah, I'm curious how crunchy these battle cry rules are. I'm curious. I could have used him. Could have used him in that battle scene. That would have been awesome.
I considered a couple things, including the troop rules, but nothing was quite right. So I can't wait to read Battle Cry. I've been doing a lot of, actually, when you weren't here, I was doing a lot of complaining about Crunch, Joe, and I just want to say, ultimately, I do really enjoy a crunchy game. I do.
Oh, sure.
I feel like it adds depth, and people have already stated the reasons it adds sort of depth to a game.
Yeah.
But just like you say, sometimes you're in the mood, sometimes you're not. I do find that sometimes crunch does get in the way of my ability to pace the thing and make it, move at a rate that is like exciting and engaging for people,
Yes. No,
sometimes when you're getting into the detail of that resolution, it slows it way down. Should we get into the partner topic here of rules? How do you manage them? How do you learn them?
Anybody wants to keep talking crunch can, but this is a little partner topic. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So we thought, now that we've talked a little bit about crunch, we'd like to talk about how you handle rules in your game. How do you learn the rules? How do you implement the rules? And I'll just start by giving my rules about rules. Okay. I have some rules about rules. Okay. So my first one is that the way you can really learn the rules is by playing the game. That means that almost by necessity, you usually have to start playing a game before you really have memorized all the rules for it. And I don't believe that I really am actually playing the game by the rules until maybe like the 10th time I've played it, honestly. That's when I start to kind of go, oh, okay, this is all starting to fitting together. Sometimes it takes that long for me to even like really understand the rules philosophy that it's at work there, like the way it's kind of meant to be played. All right. Mm-hmm. So you learn by playing. My next rule is that you actually should read the rules, like all of the rules, because I feel like you'd be surprised how often people play without having read the rules. It's kind of amazing. Like they just start playing without having read them. So I do think you learn by playing, but you should read them first, right? And then you should reread the rules every once in a while, or watch YouTube videos about them. If you're like playing Pathfinder and they're lucky enough to have multiple YouTube series that just go into different rules, like you should reread the rules. And then finally, I think you should be interested in the rules, because the rules, the rules are fun in and of themselves, right? Like there's the fiction you're trying to emulate, and like I say, I'm trying to create a movie or whatever, but like rules are fun too. Like mastery of rules is also fun. Figuring out how different rules work together in combination or create certain situations, that's fun. And you need to kind of like get into the rules and have fun with the rules, as opposed to just looking at them as an obstacle. Mm-hmm. So those are my rules on rules.
Lawyers, rules lawyers get a bad rap around the table, and I certainly understand why. And there are times it's called for and times that it isn't, and I often don't know the difference. But the whole concept of lawyers in general is making the laws work for you, making them bend to how you need them to work. And a mastery of the rules only helps you. If you are more ignorant about the rules, you're at a disadvantage at a table from doing the things that you want to do, the heroic things that you want to pull off. If you find a way that, it's reading those rules and playing and getting that experience that is going to allow you to know that rules are not only an obstacle, they can be a tool that you use to succeed in certain cases, that you wield a power to help you overcome obstacles because you know the rule that gets you past it.
Right.
So I think I love what you said right there, and I think that there's a good point. I think a lot of people, even coming off of our crunch discussion, may have considered rules to be an obstacle to resolution, an obstacle to fun, or an obstacle to heroic deeds. They can also equally, with knowledge, be wielded as weapons to accomplish the things you want to accomplish.
Which you're bringing up a good point that wasn't quite in my points, which is the players should read the rules. I think I've played so many games where I read the rules and I had to remember all the rules, and all the players sat down and were like, give us an experience. And it's like, no, read the rules. Like you.
So, all right. So if I may, I'll say there's a really hard thing here, which I'm coming at it from a player perspective and a GM perspective at the same time. You can't, I don't want to say you can't, but I think it's kind of impossible to say, quote, to hand somebody the 2E core rulebook and say, read the rules.
Yes.
That's not a thing.
You're right.
So you have to find a middle ground. So here's what I do as a GM. If I'm learning a new game and I'm going to play it with people, first of all, I allow myself to fail at all points when it comes time to play. Jeez, I keep backing up. Sorry. First of all.
Take your time.
First of all, there is out-of-game rules and in-game rules. So out of game is a great time to dig into rules, to delve into rules, to try to read, watch YouTube videos, and learn there. You will also learn at the game table, but at the game table is not a great time to fix every rule or look up every situation that comes across. That is a great time, especially early on, to hand wave rules, to not follow the rules or not even look something up if you feel the momentum is working for you right now. I'll give you an example. I just did Starfinder 2E for Gen Con. And I was playing with Rob Kirkovich, who had never played before. And he just did a little bit of 2E, the game that he played with you. And he had made an envoy, and he had this ability to intimidate. It's called intimidating shot. An ability to fire his weapon in the air as a way to frighten the enemy and give them the frightened condition. So he starts looking up and reading it. And one of the first things he says is like, expend I can't remember the word for it, but it's basically like it says how much ammo he uses in the intimidating shot.
Right.
And how to track that based on the kind of weapon he had and how many rounds it fires per trigger pull, right? And he's like, so first I expend blah, blah, blah. And I just said, and you can hear it in the show. Just go check it out. Watch it on YouTube or listen to it. And I just say like, don't even read that. Forget it. Skip it. Go. Keep moving. Because he was in the midst of going, what's up, motherfuckers? And like fire a gun in the air. That's it. That's hilarious. Roll the die. Right? He's reading the ability word for word, and I could sense it was going into a place where now we were going to have to look up how many charges his weapon has, before he has to spend a reload action. I understand why the rule's there. I appreciate the rules there.
Maybe he should know that. Maybe he should. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the players should know the rules for their characters.
Right,
yeah,
but it was session one.
And
also knowing the rule for how your gun reloads, just not that much of a concern to me as a GM. And so I'm just, forget it. But now after the fact, it's nice to like look up, all right, what does that mean? How many charges does that weapon have? I'd like to remember this for future reference. So anyway, that's one way that I approach the rules. Another thing is when you're preparing a new game for players, what I like to do is definitely, read the rules, like give it a breeze through for sure. And try to at least get a sense of what are the priorities. So you are now playing in Get in the Trunk. You are in this season of Get in the Trunk. And if you'll recall, I sent you pages of the PDF of the core rulebook to read. And I think there were like 3 before the first session. Really, those are about setting tone. So what I'll do is I'll pick out specific chunks of digestible pages. For the Pathfinder 2e, it might be the playing the game chapter, which is like 375 pages into it, is like playing the game. And they boil down the blow-by-blow mechanics of exploration mode into initiative mode and then downtime, right? It's saying, just read these 6 pages and you'll get a sense of the 3-action economy, what, movement is, what a strike is, what, etc. And then, okay, now you're playing a wizard. Read this page and this page, casting spells. It's 2 pages that, So yeah, I think breaking it out for people into digestible chunks and not just handing them a book and saying, read it, is a great way to learn the rules, at least enough to get off the ground. But then, yeah, you have to learn it in session. You have to learn it by playing.
Yeah, no, I mean, a very good point. Like, you really can't hand someone a whole book and tell them to learn it. But it is really, really amazing and helps the game so much when players know the rules. If they at least know the rules, all of the rules for their character. That helps the game
Let me add on to this
much.
Real quick before we go back to colors, which is friend of the show, Adam Smith from Order of the Amber Die, and we'll talk about Order of the Amber Die as an example when we talk about Marathon Gaming. He said something to me that really resonated. This is a guy with 30-plus years of GMing experience. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, almost 40 years GMing experience, and has GM'd at a very, very high level for large tables of players, and they are very rule conscious, and admits, outright that there is no way he can know all the rules, and even him. And he says nobody can. Nobody can know all the rules. So the way that the vibe he creates at his gaming table is it's a team effort. Everybody has to try to know the rules and correct everybody else. Everybody needs to be watchdogs for everybody. And I know that can get kind of a bad vibe if you're like, all the time, interrupting people. That can really be shitty. I get that. You got to kind of pick your battles, but you also have to know your table. At a table where the vibe is, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'd like to play by the rules as well, then it's all very amicable and jovial. And the only point being, it's not a one-person job. It just can't be.
Right.
It's too massive. And because anybody, even somebody that is very, very aware of the rules, everybody has blind spots. Everybody has things in these games they always forget, right? I mean, listeners, you got to have this, right? You got these things that you just, no matter what, you can never remember. You've read it 8 times and I
have a couple of those.
A couple blind spots. Well, they're not the same for everybody. So some person's blind spot is another person's lane. They know exactly how that rule works. And so, everybody's got to chip in a little bit and watch each other and not just sit in silence in someone else's turn and let them do something against the rules without saying, hey, I don't think that's how that works. Now, look, you may be at a table where people don't want to play by the rules that well and they don't care and you just don't talk. That's fine. But if that's the vibe of the table, it has to be a team effort.
I think if you go in and you explain that philosophy of a team effort and you make people take responsibility for certain aspects of the game, then it's not like you're interrupting someone to correct them. It's like, okay, we're about to go into downtime. Joe, that's your area of expertise. How would this, work out? I mean, as a GM, if I could do that and literally go and now we're going to go over to Joe and he's going to tell you a little bit of about how downtime works. I mean, as the GM, I also need to know. Or at least have skimmed it and have the basics. But to have people that you can go to and go oh, this guy knows all about spell casting and counteracting, and that would be huge, in a game and make it run so much more smoothly. And all those things I was complaining about with Crunch kind of stopping you down. Well, those speed bumps would get smoothed out a lot.
And you're involving everyone at the table in everyone else's turns. Everybody's kind of talking. Yeah. Somebody has something to contribute.
So you're not standing there waiting for 10, 15 minutes. You know what I mean? You're engaging, which I think,
You want to take a call real quick?
Let's take a call.
Let's take a call. What is Elijah cursed? Elijah cursed in parentheses. What does that mean?
It means I'm cursed because my dice roll like yours, Joe.
Oh no! I'm so sorry to hear it, Elijah.
That means you have to be the GM because then the characters get to win. I have bad dice too, but I always GM.
I roll at least 3 natural 20s whenever I GM for my wife and her friends. But if I'm playing, when I play with them and my buddy GMs, like he's running Curse of Strahd and I'm playing in it. And I think for the first, I don't know, 3 sessions, I didn't roll above a 10 on anything. I was like, this is awful. I hate this. I'm having a great time.
It's so painful. The worst part of that is just feeling like you're embarrassing your character. That's how I always feel. I'm always like, I made somebody that I thought was going to be a hero, and now they're just a laughing stock in front of everybody. I'm sorry, I made character. I owe you an apology.
He's a human fighter, which is, I know, the basic D&D character, but I'm like, this is Curse of Strahd. I'm not taking any chances. So if he's a human fighter, he's like served 20 years in the military. He's he's like a retired captain. Like, he knows how to fight, and yet here he is whiffing every melee attack he makes.
So funny. Wow. All right, Elijah, what do you want to weigh in on here today? A lot of topics floating out there.
Yeah, and I kind of think they go hand in hand, these two. The more like the crunch and the rules aspect. In my opinion, I think they go hand in hand because I like a lot of crunch. Yeah, well, that makes sense now. I see that.
Go ahead.
I like crunch. I'm a fan of crunch. I like it. I feel like it tells a better story when there's more thought out mechanics for an action. Like I'm going to go back to I just finished listening to Giant Slayer not that long ago, and there was like learning of all the mechanics. I have had zero exposure to Pathfinder before that. So learning the mechanics as you guys played through them and learned them yourselves, like the grapple mechanics, the Baron's targeting mechanics to be able to shoot a weapon out of someone's hand or an object. I was like, I love that because it creates, in my opinion, a better involvement with your character for you and everyone else at the table, and it gives the GM some new things to have to kind of react to as well. It's different when it's like, oh, I'm going to go up, I hit this guy. Okay, like that's it. But when you have someone like a gunslinger or a ranger who I take my weapon, I target their weapon, and I'm going to make this roll to shoot it out of their hand. And now the GM's going to kind of adapt to. He succeeded. My big bad no longer has this massive claymore that can decimate them. It is reduced to punching until I spend a turn to pick it up.
Okay, so let me stop you for just a second. So you say that rules make for a better story, okay? And I'm not sure if I understand why you think that, because let me put it to you this way. You're doing the targeting thing you mentioned, and you want to shoot a gun out of someone's hand, and you realize that that's going to be a special case. It's not just like shooting someone in the middle of a combat, just trying to get it hidden on them. So now you've got to stop the story, and you've got to look up what happens when a gunslinger tries to use a called shot on a specific part of an enemy's body. And so now you're stopping and you're looking that up. As opposed to a game, and I don't think there are any games that are like you describe them, where you just walk up and say, I do that, and it happens. But as opposed to like the GM just going, you know what, just make an attack, and let's just find out. And I'll make it a higher DC, and we'll find out what happens. Right? Like, that's not probably using the rules exactly as written, but it gets the job done, and you shoot the gun out of the hand. So I don't understand how more rules make it a better story.
I see what you're saying. I agree. And I think there's also a balance there where too many rules restrict creativity. But the example I gave was that mechanic was meant to be used in combat, and it still needed an attack roll and then a specific check and a percentile. As far as for rules making a better story, in my D&D game that I'm running for my wife and her friends, I told them we're going to use the rules in the basic handbook. There's not going to be much difference really at all. There might be like some weird checks that aren't clearly stated that I'll pull up on the fly, but for them, 98% of the gameplay will be done by these rules, and that way I can focus more on telling the story because I told them, like, familiarize yourself with the rules for yourself, for the game, for your characters, and then help each other figure that out as well. And from what I understand in the chat, that's also what everyone's kind of agreeing with is, learn the general rules of the game, how the mechanics work, the overall like actions you can take, bonus actions, and then know the rules that apply to your character and where your role is in the party, and then go from there. If I don't have to constantly pause the game, pause the story, like you're saying, to help to find out, let's find out what this rule does with this, or what this rule is for your character, I can focus a lot more on telling a better story, or telling the story in a more consistent and better way.
Yeah, a GM should not be responsible for policing the turns of players in terms of the rules that they're using for their class. Like that really is on the players and the player captains, so to speak, or the other players that know this stuff. Elijah, what's a great unwritten rule? Unwritten.
If you walk into a men's bathroom and there's 3 urinals and someone's standing on the left, you go to the very far right. You leave one space between you.
Yeah, because you don't want nobody to think you're gay and want to suck their penis. Men can't stand near each other while they nicterate, or they want to suck each other's penises, which is wrong.
The reality is, it is an unwritten rule. And if you were in a stadium, let's make a more extreme example, and there's 30 urinals. You're at Gen Con, and there's 30 urinals, and you step up to one. Every other one is empty, and somebody steps up right next to you. You're like, come on, man. There's a ton of urinals here.
I got to tell you guys, I always go directly beside the person using, I go as close to them as I can. I look down at their junk, then I catch their eye and I go, bazinga!
Oh my God.
Big Bang Theory. I say
shit.
Bazinga.
We have a friend in Discord, a lot of friends here today, but Paula Deming is here, it appears. Paula Deming, Are you here? You're muted. Oh, wait, maybe just to me. I can hear
muted.
you. Yes.
She's
Paula
probably
Deming,
muted
what's
just to
going
me.
on?
Hello. I was expressing opinions in the Twitch chat, and Twitch chat said, Paula, you have to put your hand up and talk on the call. And I said, okay, I guess I will.
Okay. Opinions on what? I was looking at the Twitch chat. I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
So in whose responsibility it is to know the rules and when it is or isn't appropriate to do rules corrections mid-game is what I thought I would talk about.
Sure.
But inspired by the previous caller, I have to say it is just appalling to me that men are not expected to desire or appreciate privacy while they are relieving themselves. Y'all need to stop. Forget it. I don't understand your bathrooms and why they're like that. I would never pee in a trough. It's horrifying to me.
Well, it goes
Men
back to the
deserve stalls.
Roman bathhouses, Paula, where homosexuality was rampant and accepted.
Look, I am coming here to try and help everyone feel, to just confirm for everyone that, no one can, we've already said it, but no one can know every rule of your game. No one can know all the rules. Have you seen the source books? They're hundreds of pages long. That's why we have the books. They're reference tomes, right? I don't think we should ever feel like our GMs or the players can't go to these books and look something up if they need to. And I think there gets this idea that we have to keep this almost like we can't break the fourth wall of our game and show that we might need to look something up. Yes, you can. Everyone will have to. And I just want to reiterate that, even though it's already been said.
Yeah, I like that point that they're reference tomes. They're there for your reference while you're playing. If that's what you want to do, you can just stop and look it up.
Now, you said something in chat that I thought was really interesting, Paula, which is that you don't mind someone correcting you on a rule. You do mind when someone tells you what move you should have made.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I do mind that. And it is something that I think I'm a little sensitive to, perhaps even more than I should be. There are examples in games. There's literally one in the Starfinder game that we did and pre-recorded for Gen Con, Joe, where I felt there was a moment where I felt I worked really hard to decide what. There are 2 things maybe I should do. Which should I do? And between turns, I'm okay, it's hard to decide. I'm going to choose this thing. And then as soon as I do, if another player is well, shouldn't you do this instead? I'm fine. I guess I'll do that instead. Even though you don't know that I just spent all this time in my brain trying to figure out what was the right rule. abhor that shit. Like people don't mean it. They're just trying to be helpful. But I've just become so sensitive to it. But if you're say, oh, actually, here's another thing that happened in our Starfinder game. I was like, oh, I get this buff to my like skill checks or something. And I thought I could do it for an attack. And it's like, actually, that's not the same thing. And so this is a rules correction where you can't do the thing you thought because that's actually not how that works. So that is disappointing, but appropriate. So yeah, if you need to correct me on a rule, fine. But don't tell me how I should have taken my turn.
Yeah.
Which can be hard to do because we all want each other to do well, right? We're trying to work as a team. So sometimes you want to say, oh, but shouldn't you do this? Because isn't that the best strategy? And it's hard to not do that sometimes.
I'm a big proponent of I'm allowed to take a non-optimal turn.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm allowed to do something idiosyncratic over here that maybe isn't like the optimal thing for the whole team right now. Like I'm allowed to do that. Like,
and because people do
this
that,
is where
right?
I come in on this, and I do this all the time to people. And for me, I feel like it usually comes from a place of I just want to clarify something. When you make that non-optimal decision, I'm all for that under the assumption that you're making a non-optimal decision, that you're making a character-based decision that is sort of a gut, feeling, vibe thing. When you are, because non-optimal decisions I have found in a lot of Pathfinder 2e they're usually not that catastrophic. Like there's always, they don't kill everybody. That's not really what ends up happening. So there's no reason to get all up in arms about a non-optimal decision at any point. However, there is an element of like new players playing a game, and not knowing what they can do, not knowing what abilities they have access to. And helping in that regard that's where, to me, it's a little bit tricky. That's like a gray area to be like, well, are you aware that if you step here, you get a bonus to this option, and if you step in that other place, you get a penalty? Do you know that, and you want to do that? Yes, I do. Okay, great. But you need to make sure that I have a hard time sitting there watching a new player fumble with a class they don't know and do non-optimal things that they wish they wouldn't have done if they would have known how things work.
I think that's all in how you word what you're saying, right? There's a way to be like, oh,
did you know that this option is out there, as opposed to hey,
don't
you
forget
should
that
do
there's
this
thing if you want to do it. But as opposed to being like, don't do that, you should do this. It's all in how you say it, in the
even just tone
of voice. Yes,
sometimes someone can be saying the right words. Like, are you aware you had this option? But the way they're saying it, they're like, you should do this.
Are you aware you idiot. This option? Yeah.
I have, I've been told I have you idiot voice, meaning that anytime I say anything to people, they think I'm calling them an idiot. So,
I mean, sometimes, yeah, but we just learned that it means you love us, we hope.
Sure, that is true. Yes. Yeah, Paula, that's what it is.
Did you have anything else you wanted to weigh in on rules wise or crunch wise?
No. I think those are my thoughts. I think anything else I would say at this point would probably be just repeating what other people have already said.
Okay. Do you have a good unwritten rule for life or anything, or I don't know, any walk of life? An unwritten rule you live by?
An unwritten rule I live by. Okay, here's one. Here's one I live by. Speaking of toilets, if I go to someone's house, whatever state their toilet was in when I got into their bathroom, seat up, seat down, lid down, that's the state I personally return it to when I'm done with it, because that's obviously how they like it. And people come into my house and they do not do that, and it low-key drives me bonkers.
That's great. That's great.
Interesting.
Leave the toilet as you found it.
Yes. Tough for me because I go to other people's houses and absolutely destroy their toilet.
Yeah,
Thank you for calling.
I know, and that's why you're not invited back here. Thanks, guys.
Please call in anytime.
Bye, Paula.
That is great. Okay, let's get Ad Astra up here. Ad Astra's been waiting for a while. Ad Astra, thank you for your patience. Are you there?
Hello?
Oh no. We can't hear you.
Astra.
Oh man, Ad Astra's trying. Your mic's not. Oh wait, there we go.
There you are.
Yeah, I just turned off my Bluetooth.
No problem.
It was a Bluetooth situation. What's up, Ad Astra? How are you?
Well, it's good to talk to you boys again. You gotta stop being late. I have a meeting in 15 minutes.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, technical issues.
I'm so glad you picked me up, though. So glad.
What do you got for us?
These two topics really go hand in hand. You know, how you teach somebody a game entirely depends on how crunchy it is. Do you want to play Merc Bure together? Okay, read the book. Right. Do you want to play Pathfinder together? Okay, I'm going to need you to read this chapter for sure, and a little bit of that chapter, and know your class, because I don't know your class. I'm the GM. It's too crunchy for me to know your class.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, as somebody
each approach is a little different. You know, another thing I'd ask you, let me ask you, would you... Man, it's so valuable to play other classes. Like to play another class for a bit enlightens you so much to how to play other classes and how to GM, a game of playing different classes. What do you play at Astra? Do you play Pathfinder? Do you play D&D? Do you play something else?
Well, so my group is traditionally 5e. I am teaching them Pathfinder 2e.
Oh, so you're in the process now.
Yeah. So we are halfway to level 3 in Season of Ghosts right now.
Oh, I hear great things about that AP. I hear it's great.
It's been
so you're
so
a
much
racist,
fun.
Is what you're telling me.
Yep. Thanks.
Well, have fun appropriating a culture, you son of a bitch.
I'm doing all the Orientalist tropes that I can.
There you go. Very interesting. So, have you had any deaths yet?
No deaths yet, but there is one guy who I'm really good at sending to dying to in most fights.
Oh, one of these days you're going to get him.
That sounds like he doesn't have an optimal build.
And we were talking about Leshies earlier. Half of my 6 players are furries in this one. I've got a cat folk, a rat folk, and a kitsune.
Okay, bye. Good to talk to you. Why did you allow that?
Because I'm a pushover.
That sounds terrible.
I'm going to try to murder the kitsune as soon as possible, frankly.
Yeah, get rid of that.
One kitsune, great. One kitsune, great.
Kitsune rat folk. Sorry, Jared cut you off immediately. What were the other? It was kitsune rat folk, and what was the other one?
And a cat folk.
And a cat folk. Cat folk, rat folk, yeah. Tricky. All right, Ad Astra, give us a good unwritten rule. Enter the contest for Battle Cry.
So you guys could probably finish this one for me. Let me throw it up there for you. If you're not the bride.
Oh, don't wear white.
Don't wear white to a wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good unwritten rule.
Classic.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to get some fashion ones, because there are some definite fashion unwritten rules. If you are not the bride, don't wear white.
I have one more thought about RPG rules, which is kind of like about teaching them, because we've gotten into that a lot.
Yes.
What I tend to do is just start playing and then just deal with the rules as you come to them. And it's okay to do an entire session where people are kind of walking around the village and getting the quest and just trying some basic skill rolls to get that down. And then the next session, maybe you get into exploration rolls. And then in the next session, you get into combat. And then after that, you get into downtime, but you don't try to take it all on at once. And
it's like a tutorial.
It's like a tutorial, but it can still feel
in a way that you reveal small parts as you play.
I think the APs are because I've read a couple now. They are kind of structured like that. They kind of try to tutorial you in. But if you're running your own homebrew 5e game, I really recommend you you don't have to get into everything in that first session or that second session. You can kind of deal one piece at a time, or just deal with things as you come to them. So people don't really need to read the whole book. Like, you can just get to it when you cross that bridge when you come to it.
That's a really good point. If you're homebrewing and you're getting new players into 5e or PF2e, that's a great point. It's like, I'm sure you're eager, like I would be. I am eager to get them in a fight. That's the fun for me. That's the fun part of the game. Get out a battle map. Let's show you what this game really is. Because ultimately, don't kid yourself, that's the game. The game is a tactical combat game. That's what it is. But you serve yourself so much better to begin with new players with social stuff, sandboxy sort of stuff that does not, where there's no fight possible, where maybe there's some die rolls for like a contest, right? Or a debate or a battle of wits or whatever, things that are not going to kill characters. And what you do and have that be the first session and there is no fighting. What you do, you serve yourself really well with that, because when the combat comes, you will have created attachment. You will have created bonds between players and characters that they care about, and then they'll start caring about battle rules, right? Like they care about battle rules because they care about their character or their relationship or their mission. Take time to let that develop. Don't force it. Let's introduce them, or let's open in a fight. Yeah. And you can do that with an experienced table, especially with players that have played together before. Like we open with a fight. I love that. I think that's really fun. I don't think that that's the best way to bring new players in. Like, start slow.
It's not the best way to teach the rules. And imagine you cliffhanger when a fight's about to begin at the end of that first session. Then you go home, you reread all the combat rules again. And then in the second session, you just handle the combat. You let it go as long as it needs to go. You let everybody kind of really get into their options and everything. And then second session is just one big fight. And then they're able to like internalize that, because you're not trying to give it to them at the same time you're trying to give them 3 or 4 other things.
Let's see what DeSicchio has to say. DeSicchio, our grad student. Oh, you're muted. Unmute that shit, dude.
Sorry about that.
All
no
good.
problem.
How you doing, DeSicchio?
What's up?
Good to see you.
Doing great. Just juggling baby and chores, and my thumb wasn't ready to unmute.
It's all good.
Yeah, no problem.
What do you want to weigh in on here?
Try to be better next time, though, and don't waste our time. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about one aspect of rules that I really liked, and that's like you're talking about the expectations of players needing to read rules, and how like sometimes when you don't understand the rules, there can be a clash there. That's actually one of the reasons why I do really enjoy crunch in games. I feel that good crunch can lead to discovery. In that, like, if I go to a game and I don't read the rules, I don't have an expectation, but I'm going to bring to the table a character that is some sort of concept from my mind, maybe tropey, maybe, but it's from me. But if I spend the time to explore the rules, I will discover a different type of character or a different type of action. That's something that I would have never found if the rules didn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand that, because from my philosophy, it's much better for a person to be able to conceive of a character they would really love to play, and then to come to the game and be able to create that character, than it is for someone to conceive of a character they would really love to play, come to the game, discover that's not really doable, and they have to do something else.
Well, that's one example. The other example, you're talking from an experienced creator standpoint. But the other example is somebody that doesn't know how to make a character, or doesn't have a concept, or doesn't know how to bring something like that to the table. I remember going through this with Paula and Mary Lou, who are obviously both extremely creative people. Paula has a lot of RPG experience. Mary Lou was kind of new to it. And I remember them raving about Pathfinder 2E's background system and class feats system, because it helped them get the ideas to make a character. You know what I mean? Because they have this book is so deep into the world that they can give you so many ideas for background stuff like that you can elaborate on and make your own. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, Jared, but the other side of that coin is some people come to make a character and they don't know. They don't already have a concept. And these crunchy games are way better than non-crunchy games for helping you get to that creative.
A crunchy game is more on the rails, though. You know, it's impossible for them to come up with infinite crunchy rules for infinite types of characters. Although Pathfinder has done a very good attempt at that.
Yes,
you know, with all the archetypes and everything.
Right.
But ultimately, you're on the rails. You have a limited number of options. Whereas I will say, there are other games, some crunchy, some not, where you can do almost anything you can think of
with character creation.
So yeah you know.
Well, so I guess my point is like if the rule exists that it leads you to a character discovery that you would not have been able to find on your own. Like it just never would have dawned on you until you see it in the context of the rules. That does push you to learn and try new things, which can be very exciting.
Yeah. DeSicio, give us a great unwritten rule.
One of the commandments of tabletop gaming, thou shalt be consistent with how you treat your cracked dice.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one. Cracked dice consistency. Be consistent.
Does cracked means it's on the edge?
Yeah, it means it's like, sometimes there's like a dominant number and you're like, natural 20. Or sometimes that dominant number is a 2 and you're like, cracked die. I'm going to re-roll.
That's why you got to use a dice tray, everybody. Dice tray.
Yeah.
Can't be throwing them around willy-nilly.
Well, that's the other thing is you have to have the unwritten rule. It's like you have to have consistency. It has to be in the tray. So if it pops out of the tray, it doesn't count, right? Like, if it hits the floor, does it count? If it hits the floor, no, never. At least it's whatever it is. It's got to be consistent at your table. Good unwritten rule. You won't find that in any rule books, but it is. It's good to keep people honest. Let's do one more before we move on to marathoning. Mr. Bandana Head has been waiting. Mr. Bandana Head, how are you?
Ooh, have we ever heard from Mr. Bandana Head before?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I don't believe so. Well, nice to say hi to you all. Shout out to McD, the unsung hero of Glass Cannon.
Yes.
And,
yes. Thank you, McD.
Big fan of the Stream of Blood from Jared.
Nice, dude.
So I just wanted to talk about with this rules discussion. There's the concept, it's talked a lot about in video game creation, but of ludonarrative and ludodissonance, where the rules themselves sort of inform what kind of story you're playing. So my example of that is that if you look at Pathfinder 2nd edition or 5th edition, those games are, the way those rules are written are really pointing towards a very specific type of narrative, where you wouldn't necessarily want to use that system to do something more dungeon crawly or horror-y. It's really sort of superhero fantasy sort of fiction. Mm-hmm. So my thought is, what are y'all's thoughts about taking a system? For example, I'm running a Lancer RPG game at the moment, which is very, very tactical, but the players really love mech anime like Evangelion. And half of Evangelion is this really intense personal conflict between these characters and not so much the mech combat. And so the players have 2 different character sheets where we're basically doing 2 different rule systems, one for combat and one for entirely that emotional core type thing in order to not break the narrative.
Cool. What's the emotional system you're using?
We use something similar to Powered by the Apocalypse, something homebrew that I did that could fit for that. So,
that's cool. I think it's you got to have buy-in from your table. You got to learn 2 different games to play one, but it sounds awesome to me. That's also interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Jared.
No. I just think one of the cool things about RPGs is how people kit bash them and change them around. I find that 90% of the time they make them too complicated, but I mean, and then player buy-in is tough, but yeah, I mean, that's cool.
I love, I learned a lot in our interview with John Harper last week. One of the things that I learned, I found very interesting, was that he explained that the Blades mechanics were built for a criminal gang game. And that's what they're for. It was very interesting. He was like, it's able to be a tight system because the setting is so tight. It is meant to support this, and these kind of die rules support this kind of narrative. Obviously, the forged in the dark idea is, again, a relative of Powered by the Apocalypse. It can be used in other ways, but you see with these other books that are written, they have to change a lot of rules because they're changing the setting. And I found that very interesting. It's like, it's not, I thought you could pretty much take any system and lay it in any setting. But you're right, Mr. Bandana Head, that like systems like Pathfinder are meant for a very specific kind of world. They thrive in this kind of setting, and to just use it to play something else might not resonate as much. Do I have that right? What you're saying?
Yes, exactly. And that just goes back to the whole rules conversation or rule zero. What kind of game
but it's running. A good point about how rules can define a tone and a setting in a way that if well crafted, can be very interesting. Give us a good unwritten rule, Mr. Bandana Head.
I guess the one that comes to mind is if someone asks you how you're doing, you respond with something along the lines of fine, good, tired, etc., but you don't really get into how you're doing in that exact moment.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, Mr. Bandana Head. Don't actually explain how you're doing.
Yeah. There are people that don't follow it.
That's certainly true.
And they are terrifying.
Let's move on, Jared. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Let's talk about marathon games.
Yeah, let's do a little peek in on marathon.
You're coming off a marathon. You just pulled a marathon game. It wasn't a weekend. It was in the middle of the week.
It was while we had our vacation, which is this has been nice. Couple weeks off, but now I'm back, ready to get back into my GCN game playing. I did guest for a day and a half in a little marathon, a 3-day marathon session. I couldn't do all 3 days because I've got kids and responsibilities, but I managed to pull out a day and a half, and that was awesome. You've said you've done a little bit of marathon gaming in the past.
On several occasions.
And I know that we had our GCN version, which was, we did a big push with Strange Aeons where we did, I don't know what it was. It was like 4 to 6 hour sessions, 3 straight days streaming.
Yeah.
And that I consider to be marathoning. And man,
marathoning.
Are there so many positives to that. So I'll let you lead it off here. Talk to us about, first of all, let's define it. What do we mean by marathon gaming? Obviously there's not a hard and fast rule here, but what are we talking about?
I think it's anytime you set some days aside, not an evening. Right? Not it's not a session. It's you're setting a day or 2 or 3 aside to just game with your friends. In my case, not too long ago, I ended my 5e campaign that was 2.5 years long. We went to a friend's cabin in Big Bear, and we just played for like 2.5 days to get all the way to the final conclusion. And that's how we ended it. And that was a really nice way to end it. But I've done others, back when I was playing 4E D&D, we went to my friend's house. We all lived in New York City. We went out to Jersey, went to his house in Montclair, New Jersey, and we just played for a couple days. And, you play for 8 hours, straight, which you rarely get to do. And you get a lot of game played. If you're playing a pre-written campaign, you can actually make some progress. So it's really, really fun. And it also harkens back to when I was in high school and college, I feel like we marathoned all the time. We might not take a whole weekend, but we might take a Saturday in high school and play for 8 hours. I play till 2 a.m. Just going and going and going and never stopping.
It's something that is harder to do now at our age, but it's something that I think I can't stress enough that it's great to make time for in your life if you can find a way to set aside a couple days. And because, it's the same sort of philosophies that you'll get around companies and the idea of retreats. right? It's like you need to get out of your regular environment and you need to get into a place where your mindset can shift a little bit. And for marathons, my only experience has been with Order of the Ember Die. They have cultivated this philosophy behind it that has to do with like, sensory deprivation, basically. Like you don't even know you're in a house. They hang black drapes over everything. They do this dim lighting. They enclose you in so that like you don't know what time of day it is. It's like being in a casino. You don't know like how late or how early it might be. And you're not looking at clocks, and nobody's on their phone unless they're looking up rules, and there's no computers, right? It's all just the papers, the maps, the minis, the dice. And in order to pull something like that off, you have to, first of all, you got to use some vacation time, right? Like this is going to be like a vacation-y kind of thing. You got to set aside some time, and you need to, it's a team effort, right? You got to chip in food. You don't even want to be like ordering food because no one else should enter this space. You should have, pre-made sort of casseroles and shit that you can just throw in the oven. Your meals are ready for each meal of every day. You can have bagels and eggs and cartons of eggs or whatever. And then what it does is it allows you to give a focus on your games like you've never had before, a focus on your characters like you've never seen. There's no distractions. You're in it and you are making decisions that you remember hours later for days in a row. And I felt that way with Strange Aeons. I was so connected to my character. But by the time you're 4 or 6 hours in and then you're still going or you're picking up the next day, and the plot as well, like you're sticking with the plot, you're on top of it. You know what items are on your character sheet. Imagine that.
Right.
You know what quest items you've picked up and where they need to go to, It's just, it's a phenomenal way to game. I think there's a lot of strategies out there. Order of the Amber Die is something I highly recommend people go check out. Their blog is on Paizo. They also have a Facebook page and a Patreon. You can go check out, like they explain the processes that they do. Another one that they do, Jared, that I think you'd really appreciate. I might have mentioned this before, but like they even take initiative off of the GM's plate. A player. Oh,
they have a person.
They have a board, and a player runs the board for initiative and tells the other players when they're up. And the GM will just say, enemy 1 rolled X, enemy even, it doesn't have to define them yet, and they'll just kind of like lay it out, and then the players run that stuff. The players worry about who's on delay, who's coming off delay. And then you've got a log keeper. You got the player that writes everything down, because the marathons are fantastic, but you can't do them every month. So usually you're doing 2 marathons a year, basically. But you're getting the gaming in you would get in if you played every month. You just do it in these chunks where it's hyper focused. So you have like a lore keeper, you have initiative person, you've got a food person, right? Like food, drink, whatever, a beer,
this
water,
is a great way
soda.
to do it. Everybody has a specialty or a responsibility,
right. There's somebody that does like the set dressing, does the lighting, does the set, and the GM's only responsibility is running the game. Because it is a huge responsibility. Making all the maps, having all the minis ready. Like
the thing about a marathon is that it really puts a lot of burden on the GM, because instead of providing 4 hours of entertainment, they now have to provide, 16 hours of entertainment.
Or 20, 25 hours.
Yeah.
The one that we did 12 hours on the first day. It was 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. with, there was about an hour break for dinner, but the GM didn't eat on his feet because it was a time when he was changing maps. And so he just kept working through that. But otherwise, 12 hours and then up the next morning, 9 a.m. back at the table. Let's keep going. It's very
I have
cool
to say, for these things, some tips are you have to get rest, pace yourself, take breaks, right?
Yeah.
And go slow with the food. And if there are drugs and alcohol, go very slow with that.
Yeah, start
Because
late
for
in the
some
day
reason,
with that
anytime
stuff.
you put everybody in a cabin and you give them access to alcohol, they don't know when to stop. So I think our weekend we had like a no alcohol rule, or it was like you can have it. Like we had a late dinner, like 8:30 or something like that, and it was like, well, once we were done gaming for the day at that point, right? Like we gamed from the morning till like 7:50 or something, and then we ate dinner.
Right, and then you can just like hang out. And the you made me think of something else. Oh, which the other thing that that they do is like taking care of yourself, like little fresh air, use restroom, have a snack, get some water, whatever. Like you can leave this space to just go do that, like during the game. Like you take your turn, you can leave in between turns and like get some,
what?
It's not like everybody has to sit there every second.
That would drive me nuts. People are just walking away.
Yeah, people walk away so that you can keep it going. Otherwise you got to take these group breaks, and it's just it slows down the process.
That's a very interesting approach, because to me, part of the point is that we're all sort of involved at the same time. That's surprising to me, but that makes it a lot more to me like a board game, right? Where if someone did that during a board game, it wouldn't really bother me. But during an RPG, I think as a GM, I'd be like, "Where are you going? We'll take a bathroom break in a minute."
What do they need to be there for?
Well, they need to know. You think in a combat it's not important to know what the player before you and after you did? Come on, motherfucker.
Come on. You can get filled back in quickly
But
enough.
I'm not going to say that I know more than the Order of the Amber Die, because it sounds like they've got an incredible system.
Yeah,
so
they just posted a
really
blog
need to
about
do
their
is-
first. They just posted a blog about their first Sky Scions. They're running. Oh my God,
Sky King.
Yeah, Sky King's Tomb. That's what it is. They're
Yes.
running Sky King's Tomb, and they just posted their first one. So if you want to go read about it, but it was
I need to read about
32 hours, 32-hour marathon over a few days. And they just kind of go into detail on the, what worked, what didn't, how they paced through it and stuff. It's really interesting. The reason I first found out about them was they were marathoning Giant Slayer when we started the Glass Cannon podcast. And so Troy was like reading their blog posts and looking at their maps as he was preparing sessions for our run of Giant Slayer. And man, they did Giant Slayer like a book, a marathon. So they would finish an entire book in like 4 or 5 straight days of playing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's the way. That's the way to get those APs done. I just had one final thought, which is that a marathon can be, like I said, it's really hard for the GM sometimes because they have to prepare so much stuff. And then also, like, it can even be hard on players, the whole group, because, like, what if someone dies? Well, in a regular game where you're playing once a week, you get that pause to kind of take a week to think about it, come up with a new character. There are lots of times in role-playing games where the pause between sessions is useful. It's normal and it's great. But in a marathon, you don't get that. So what I'd like to propose is the mini convention. And Clinton Trucks and his group in Michigan, when he was a lot younger, used to do this all the time. They used to take a weekend and they wouldn't just play one game the whole weekend. They would sign up for slots to GM different things and would have multiple games going at once, like one in the basement, one in the living room, right? And then after 4 hours, it would, there'd be a break, and then it would switch to another thing at 6 o'clock or whatever. And that way people got to play games they hadn't played before, or GM things that they wanted to GM, but also get that like fix of like intense role playing for an entire weekend. So
yeah.
And I got that vibe at the GCN retreat in Vegas.
Yes.
That I got that same experience, and that was awesome. And you and I were even able to connect our games a little bit to almost make it like a mini campaign or whatever.
Right, like an ongoing story. Yeah,
yeah.
That was really cool.
Just a thought is the mini convention can be awesome if you can get the people together.
Let's wrap it up here with some rapid fire calls to get in on the contest. Again, we're giving away Battle Cry from PF2E, the new source book for large scale combat, border skirmishes, a couple new classes in here. Very, very cool book that I'd love to send to the best answer of what is an unwritten rule.
An unwritten rule.
Let's rapid fire. I'm going to bring you up here. Give me your unwritten rule, then I'm kicking you out. Sweet Threat, what's up, buddy?
I'm doing good. Put away your shopping cart. It's an easy way to immediately know your entire moral framework.
Yes.
Ha-ha.
Thank you, Sweet Threat. That's a great one.
That's a great one.
That is, oh man, I wanted to do a rant on that in one episode of Legacy. It just never ended up, because, oh man, it never ended up coming to fruition. But man, that drives me nuts when there's just a shopping cart in a parking space, like way out in the lot. I'm like, what kind of asshole?
Yeah, it's a monster. Yeah,
it's a monster.
The world, it exists for them and no one else. Yeah,
Toby, what's up, buddy? Give me a good unwritten rule.
Hello. The protagonist is everyone.
The protagonist is everyone. Okay, yeah, good unwritten rule for a gaming
kind
table.
of a Zen cone. I'm not sure I understand it, Toby.
Yeah, I'm assuming he means everybody's working together to tell. Everybody's the main character of your gaming table story. Draconic. Okay. What do you got, Draconic?
Hi. Can you hear me?
We got you. What's going on?
Hi. Sorry. That is my thing. I'm a neighbor to the north, and our unwritten rule is basically to apologize constantly.
Yeah, there you go.
Make sure to apologize constantly. Okay.
Noted. Excellent. Thank you. Epic Dave is here. Epic Dave, what's up, buddy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, we got you, man.
What do you got,
we
Epic
got
Dave?
you. Get in on this contest. You got an unwritten rule up there in Boston?
Yeah, I had a couple others, but I was the one I'm narrowing it down to based on what other people said is if you're gonna take a dump in a public place, find the most secluded bathroom.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sort of an offshoot of the urinal rule we discussed earlier.
Yes. If you're wow.
I like that Epic Dave was like, they already took mine, so I'll do something very different and unique. I'm not talking about pee, I'm talking about poop.
And I'm not talking about a civilized water closet. I'm talking about if you need to dump in an outdoor location, just make it private. Mr. Grimm, give us a good unwritten rule. Get in on this contest before we wrap it up. Mr. Grimm. All right, moving on to Legend. Legend, you want to get in on this before we call it?
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Legend. Well, give us a good unwritten
first time listener, first time caller, first time talker.
Wow. Welcome to everything.
You automatically lose for making one of those jokes.
You know what? You're from the same state as I am, so nothing you say really matters to me, Jared.
Wow.
Okay,
West Virginia?
That's a weird philosophy. If someone is from the state that you are from, you don't listen to them. Okay,
that's right. Well, when it's Tennessee, I don't know if you're from Tennessee.
I lived there a long time. Do you have an unwritten rule, my friend? Is it a Tennessee rule?
Yes, and it especially applies to Pathfinder 2e with all the awesome little player's guide that they make and helps players get into the story. Take the hook. That's all.
Take the hook.
Take the hook. Write it down, Joe. You don't need to know what it means.
Playing a game and there's an adventure hook given to you by the GM.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah, thank you, Legend.
Thank you.
That is a good one.
That's an important rule.
Too many people try too hard to I'm going to make it my own adventure. It's just as a GM, you're like, come on, stop. It's so easy to get your character completely embedded in this story if you just take the hook. Good unwritten rule of gaming. All right, I'm going to post them here in Discord chat all together, Jared, if you want to take a look.
All right, I'm going to take a look. I think I know my favorite.
See if we can narrow down a favorite. Yeah, I've got mine. I've got my favorite.
I've got mine.
Okay.
Do I need a backup?
Have a backup on deck.
Okay, I've got a backup too.
My favorite is have a backup.
My favorite is Mr. Bandana's head. Don't actually explain how you're doing.
That is also mine. So that's it.
There
That's the one. Mr. Bandana Head wins it with don't actually explain it. That is such an important unwritten rule that we all encounter like every day. That's awesome. Hey, lots of great answers here, guys. Thank you so much for participating. But Mr. Bandana Head, getting yourself a copy of Battle Cry.
Thank you, Mr. Bandana Head.
Congratulations. That is awesome. I never thought of that one, and it's just so true. It's so good. That does it, right, buddy? That about does it for us. And are we doing this show next week? I mean, we haven't done it.
We are, man.
What,
We're
2 weeks in a row?
Week.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
All right.
Both of us.
Yeah, both of us will be back on next week. More fun stuff to talk about. We will
join us next week when our topics are abortion versus pro-life.
Jesus.
What do you favor?
Cut him off, McD. Mute his mic. All right, guys.
I'm pro-life. Do not get abortions. It's wrong.
Guys, have a great holiday weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.